All right, welcome everyone. We are looking at the book of Daniel. In our last meeting, we completed Daniel chapter 10. Today, we're going to begin with Daniel chapter 11. Okay, and we should be able to complete the first 13 verses. Daniel 11 has 45 verses, but kind of the first 13 verses are like the first section of the book of Daniel chapter 11. Right, so we'll try and cover that. In Daniel chapter 10, we saw that Daniel is now between 85 to 88 years old, right? So he's pretty old. Shortly after this vision, it seems like when we go into Daniel 12, we will understand that Daniel did not live very long after this. Right? The angel itself tells that you're going to rest now. So it is an assumption that he didn't live very long after this vision. Maybe a year, maybe 2 years, we don't know. Right? But he was at the end of his life when he got this particular vision. But yet he was able to remember and then write this vision. So in Daniel 10, we have seen, if you see the first part of Daniel 10, what does it say? In the 3rd year of Cyrus, king of Persia, correct? But who defeated the Babylonians? It was Cyrus. But who was the first king of Babylon from the Medo-Persians? Darius was the first king, correct? Darius was the first king. Now, but here it says in the 3rd year of King Cyrus, right? But King Cyrus was the king, was the emperor, right from the beginning. He was above the king. But like I mentioned, Darius was pretty old when he was given this responsibility, or when he was made king. By Cyrus, he was made king. It was his uncle, right? So he was made king. But in 2 or 3 years, Darius died. But this Darius was a very nice man. He liked Daniel very much. He elevated Daniel. We saw in the first year itself, a lot of things happened, right? And so God blessed Darius with understanding, with wisdom from above, right? And though there were other attempts from other countries to kind of weaken his administration, God really strengthened him, right? And so he elevated Daniel. He was the one who was there when Daniel was thrown into the lion's den, all of that. But shortly after that, in 2 or 3 years, Darius dies. And then this time Cyrus, instead of appointing somebody else, Cyrus himself comes, right? And takes over the entire thing and makes that place his capital, right? Babylon. So now we are in the 3rd year, right, of his conquest. If you see the 3rd year, and if you calculate 70 years from 605 BC, then the 3rd year of Cyrus will exactly come to the end of the 70-year prophecy. Who gave the 70-year prophecy? Anybody remembers which prophet gave the 70-year prophecy? Jeremiah, right? See, Jeremiah was living during the time before the Nebuchadnezzar came and then captured Babylon and then took some captives. But Nebuchadnezzar did not just take everybody, right? He only took the young people who will be useful for him in his kingdom. So Daniel and his 3 friends he took. Jeremiah was very old by then. So he didn't take Jeremiah and go. So Jeremiah remained in Jerusalem, right? And Jeremiah died after that, right? One example of that one is Jeremiah, after some time, he sends a letter to all the captives because he doesn't know how the captives are, right? After some time, he's wondering, he's in Jerusalem, some captives are taken to Babylon, and so he writes a letter to them. And we see all of that in Jeremiah. If you see 28, 29, we see that letter that he writes because God tells him, right, tell them that everything is going to be okay. Tell them that I am there with them. tell them that they must continue on with their lives in Babylon, right? And I'm going to bless them there also. And I know that I'm going to have some plans for them as well, right? That's the verse we see, right? Jeremiah 29:11. For I know the plans I have for you. I have plans not to harm you, but to prosper you. You know, God sends this word from Jeremiah to the captives. I'm pretty sure Daniel read that letter, right? From Jeremiah, he must have read it, and he must have taken courage in that letter, what Jeremiah wrote to the captives, right? But that 70 years that Jeremiah told them, please stay, you get married, get children, stay, God will help you. 70 years they stayed, that exactly ended with the third year of Cyrus. And you see, when Cyrus took over the throne, he issued a decree, right? In the first year that he took over, which is the third year overall, he issued a decree, right? In fact, you know, it is so interesting to see how Cyrus also, Nebuchadnezzar acknowledged God, okay? Darius acknowledged God. Do you think Cyrus acknowledged God? Yeah. Right? In fact, we should read the book of Ezra. I might have this here. Let me just see if I can share my screen and show this. Here. Just give me a minute. Yeah. So Ezra, right? So let me just share my screen here for a minute and let me know when you can see my screen. Ezra records this, right? Tell me when you can see my screen. Okay. Now, are you able to see it? Let me do it again. Okay. So it says, now in the first year of Cyrus, king of Persia. So Ezra says first year of Cyrus, which is, you know, third year, right? Because first 2-3 years Darius was there, but the first year that he took over, right? Cyrus, king of Persia, that the word of the Lord by the mouth of Jeremiah might be fulfilled. What is that? Got fulfilled? The 70 years got fulfilled. The Lord stirred up the spirit of Cyrus, king of Persia, so that he made a proclamation throughout his kingdom. And in fact, he wrote it, right? In writing, you know, the law of the Persians, once they write it, cannot be changed, right? What did Cyrus write in Ezra? All the kingdoms of the earth, the Lord God of heaven has given me. You see here the heathen king acknowledging God, right? He is telling that God of heaven has given to me all these kingdoms of the earth. I'm telling all of you, he has commanded me to do what? Build him a house at Jerusalem, which is in Judah. Right? Cyrus had a huge empire other than Jerusalem, right? But he said, God has commanded me that I should build him a house at Jerusalem, and that temple was completely destroyed. Who is among you of all his people? He tells all his kingdom, who are there among you who came from Jerusalem, right? I want to gather all of you. May his God be with him and let him go up to Jerusalem. All of you who came from Jerusalem, go back to Jerusalem, which is in Judah, and do what? Build the house of the Lord God of Israel. He is God, which is in Jerusalem. And whoever is left in any place where he dwells, let the men of his place help him with silver and gold, with goods of livestock. If you are unable to go there, at least provide some material help, right? With silver, gold, goods, livestock, whatever offerings for the house of God, which is in Jerusalem. Provide everything that is needed. Whoever wants to go, go. Right? And then when he gave this decree that you all go back to Jerusalem and then you build the temple, right? Then, there were many people in Babylon by then, the captives, but by then they grew. But still they understood which tribe they came from. So then the heads of the fathers' houses of Judah, Benjamin, the priests, the Levites, with all whose spirit God had moved, arose to go up and build the house of the Lord, which is in Jerusalem, right? So when Cyrus made this decree, of course, Daniel did not go. He was close to 90. So, but others, all of them went back to Jerusalem. All those who were around them encouraged them with articles of silver, gold, whatever he said, right? If they're around them, they could not go, or they're not actively involved, they encourage them, right? Around. King Cyrus also, look at what he had done. What did Belshazzar do? He brought the articles and then he defiled the articles from the temple. What did King Cyrus do? He brought out all the articles of the house of the Lord, which were brought from Jerusalem into Babylon, which Nebuchadnezzar had taken from Jerusalem and put in the temple of his heathen gods. Cyrus, king of Persia, brought them out of the hand of the treasurer, right? Their names are also given here. Counted them out and given it to Shabazar, who was going, that was a Babylonian name given, but he was a captive to Jerusalem, and then he was going back, right? He was made the first governor of that place of Judah. This is the number of them, right? What he gave also, Ezra was a scribe. Ezra very carefully recorded everything. So if you read the book of Ezra, you will find a lot of names, a lot of numbers. Ezra very carefully noted everything. So even he noted how much were given, right? 32 gold platters, 1,000 silver platters, 29 knives, 30 gold basins, 410 silver basins. You can see all these things, right? So Shabazar took the captives who were brought from Babylon to Jerusalem. But he appointed also one person in charge of it. And we all know that that person's name is Zerubbabel, right? Now, all these people who are in the province who came back from captivity, of those who had been carried away, whom Nebuchadnezzar, the king of Babylon, had carried away to Babylon, and who returned to Jerusalem and Judah, everyone to his own city. Those who came with Zerubbabel were Jeshua, Nehemiah, Sarai, Rila, and you can see some 10 names that are given there, right? All these people came back, right, with Zerubbabel, right? And Zerubbabel was again another in charge that was appointed by Cyrus, right? So, and he was also from the priestly tribe, from the Levite tribe, and so there will be more acceptance. You see, Cyrus studied how these people are and their tribes and all of that, and so all these people came back. And then if you read the book of Ezra, you will keep understanding, that how each tribe was allocated, how did they start building, what are some of the problems they faced, right? You will see Nehemiah here. This is not the Nehemiah that, much later on was in the king's palace, and then he came to rebuild the wall of Jerusalem. Those days there were many Nehemiahs, right? So this was a different Nehemiah. Some 90 years later, a different Nehemiah will come. That's the one in the book of Nehemiah. Okay. All right. So this is a little bit of introduction as to what did Cyrus do. Okay. Any questions here? All right. So let's go to 11. And can someone read from 1 to 4, please?
మాదీయుడగు దర్యావేషు మొదటి సంవత్సరమందు మికాయేలును సిద్ధపరచుటకును బలపరచుటకు నేను అతని యొద్దకు నిలవబడితిని. ఇప్పుడు సత్యమును నీకు తెలియచేయుచున్నాను. ఏమనగా, ఇంకా 3 రాజులు పారసీకం మీద రాజ్యం చేసిన పిమ్మట అతని కంటే అధికైశ్వర్యము కలిగిన 4వ రాజుకుడు వచ్చును. అతడు తనకున్న సంపత్తు చేత బలవంతుడై అతనికి గ్రేకేయుల రాజ్యమునకు విరోధముగా రేపును. అంతలో సూర్యుడు సూర్యుడకు ఒక రాజు పుట్టి మహా విశాలమైన రాజ్యము నేలి ఇష్టానుసారముగా జరిగించును. అతడు రాజైన తరువాత అతని రాజ్యము శిథిలమై ఆకాశపు నలుదిక్కులా విభాగింపబడును. అది అతనికి వంశపు వారికిని కాని అతడు ప్రభుత్వం చేసిన ప్రకారము ప్రభుత్వం చేయువారికి గాని విభాగింపబడదు. అతని ప్రభుత్వము వేరుతో పెరికివేయబడను. అతని వంశపు వారు దానిని పొందరు, కానీ అన్యులు పొందుదురు.
Thank you. So, let me tell you something. This particular chapter that we are going to read, the principle in the book of Daniel is what? The prophecies are repeated, but repetition and expansion, right? Always remember, that's the principle in the book of Daniel. Whenever a prophecy is repeated, there's further detail given. Now we are seeing a lot of details, right? This is a story, okay, that is going on. It is literally a story. It will sound very, very complex as you read this one, but it's a very simple story, right? What happened in the kingdom of Persia. And it is really astonishing for us to see the level of details that are given for even minute things that took place during that time, that they were revealed to Prophet Daniel and he wrote it. That would occur hundreds of years after him, right? So it's just a story that is going on, okay? So understand it in that way. See here in 11:1, what it say? Also in the first year of Darius the Mede. It seems as if it is confusing because already Darius died. We are already in the third year and Cyrus has taken over. And again, it says also in the first year of Darius, right? So this is not talking about an event right now going on. Understand that 11 is a continuation of 10. Okay, so what is happening in the chapter 10? Gabriel is explaining the vision. And so this is Gabriel talking to Daniel. And what does Gabriel tell Daniel? Gabriel is telling also in the first year of Darius, Gabriel is telling something happened in the 3 years ago. 3 years ago, when Darius took over the Babylonian Empire, even I stood up and confirmed and strengthened him. What is Gabriel telling? I'm telling you, Daniel, that when Darius took over 3 years ago in his first year, I was the one who confirmed him. I was the one who strengthened him. I was the one who gave him wisdom to do what he was doing. That is why he stood strong. That is why I gave him wisdom. That is how he appointed the governors and all of that. So it was me who gave him all of that. Right? So he's and now I will tell you the truth. Behold, 3 more kings will arise in Persia. Right? So the Gabriel is telling, you saw Darius. Right now Cyrus is the king. Right? I was the one who gave strength to Darius, and Cyrus has acknowledged that God is the one who is leading him. But apart from these two, what is Gabriel saying? 3 more kings will arise in Persia. And after that, a 4th will come who will be far richer than all of them by his strength through his riches, and he shall stir up all against the realm of Greece. Right? So now what happens is, I'm going to show you something, kind of a timeline, okay, of the Persian Empire. All right, so let me just share my screen again. So let me see. Once again, I will share my screen. Let's see where it is. Okay, right here. Okay, can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, the screen, this picture looks pretty busy, but we'll take it, from the left, right? So let me see if I can zoom it. Is it better now?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's a timeline. Okay, this is the timeline that is there. So in 539 BC, Belshazzar was drinking in a party, and then Cyrus came and defeated him. Okay, so this is that Cyrus, fall of Babylon to Cyrus. Always remember, Darius did not come and defeat him. Cyrus was the one who came and then defeated, but Cyrus appointed Darius, right? And then after 539, in a couple of years, by 537, Darius died, right? And then Cyrus took over. Okay, and in his first year itself, as we saw in Ezra, in his first year itself, he issued a decree. What was the decree? Return, right? So in 1 year's time, 536, we see in 536, all of them returned, and then they started building the temple. Okay, so, but the prophecy is telling here that 3 more kings will, right? 3 more kings will arise, right? 3 more kings will arise. Now, after this, we see 3 more kings. The son of Cyrus was Cambyses, right? Yes, Cambyses ruled for some time because Cyrus died after this. It is widely believed that probably in a trying to conquer another nation, Cyrus, he was also called Cyrus the Great, right? He also died, and then his son Cambyses took over. There were 3 kings. Cambyses, in the middle here, you see one called Smerdis, but it says false Smerdis, right? A very interesting thing take place here, right? After Cambyses, he ruled for a few years, right? You see here from this time from 530 around, what's this? Yeah, about 5 to 6 years, and then after that he died. He was also killed in a battle. Somebody else claiming to be the son of Cambyses, he claimed. So his name was Smerdis, right? But it was called false Smerdis, right? Because Cambyses died, nobody was able to identify that whether this was the real son. And it is widely believed that somebody claimed to be the son and then ruled for 6 months, only 6 months. By then 6 months, they identified who he was, and then they killed him, right? So that's why it's called false Smerdis. It's a very interesting story. All of this is in history, right? He's also called Gumada, right? You can go and see that, right? So that's the story of this guy. So 1, 2, and then 3, right? Darius. This is the 3rd king. Yeah, and so here we see that the 3 more kings will arise, and the 4th shall be far richer. You know, this king, Darius I, is known to launch attacks against Greece. You see, in those days, we know that after the Persian Empire, which empire came? After the Persian Empire, it was the Greek Empire, right? The Greek Empire came, but when these guys were there, Darius, Xerxes, they conquered the whole place except Greece, right? The Greek peninsula was the only place that was, you know, they used to have a strong army. So it was a desire for these people, these Persian emperors, to go and conquer Greece, right? But Greece had a very strong, resilient army, right? And so they tried, you know, Darius I, who succeeded the Smerdis, right? The false Smerdis. He went into Greece and then attacked them, right? But the Greeks revolted, right? And he was defeated. He was defeated at a place called Marathon, right, in Greece. And he was retreat. He had to retreat, right? He had to go back to Persia, right? In fact, have you heard this word marathon? You know, they run, right? Marathons. The word marathon also came from here. You know, there is if you read the history of this is very, it's very interesting. There was a person called Philippides, right? Philippides was a soldier who was fighting in Marathon. And then after they defeated Persians, he ran from Marathon to Athens, which is about 42 kilometers. He actually ran because he wanted to convey the news that we have won, and so he ran from Marathon, 42 kilometers he ran, right, from there to Athens, to the capital. From then on, even now, typical marathon will be about 42, 43 kilometers, where people run a marathon, right? So that started there. But that was because the Persians were defeated. And so Philippides ran and then told the rulers in Athens that we have defeated the Persians, right? And then after this, Darius ended, right? And then what does it say here? It says, the fourth shall be far richer than all of them by his strength. After Darius, who came? Xerxes. He will be far richer by his strength through his riches, and he shall stir up everyone against Greece. This guy tried his best, but he could not defeat the Greeks. But the same goal was there even for the next guy, Xerxes, right? Xerxes also had another name. He was called Ahasuerus. Right? Do you remember Ahasuerus? In which book do you read about Ahasuerus? Esther, right? So Ahasuerus or Xerxes had a queen, Queen Vashti. And what was he doing? Even this man was having a party. In fact, we know, see, this is so true, right? He was saying he was far richer, and through his riches, he was so rich that he was having a party for like months, right? So for, I think, 120 days or something like that, he was having a party. Yeah. So like 3 months. Who has a party for 3 months? Right? Or even more than that. And then he was getting so drunk that at the end of the party, all his generals were there. What did he want to do? He displayed all his wealth, but he wanted to display his queen as well. And she refused, and we know what happened after that. But this guy, we know that Queen Vashti was banished. And after that, after a few years, Esther was chosen. But in between, Xerxes also had the same goal of going and defeating the Greek people. And so he told everybody in that region, all the smaller kings, to send their armies. And so they all sent their armies. And they said, Xerxes, you take it, because Greek is the only place that we could not conquer. They are our only opposition. And so you send all your army. And so he gathered a big army. And they marched into Greece, right? And then they went to a place called Thermopylae. In our history, we will read about this battle of Thermopylae, right? So if you, I think I have a, yeah, you see here, this is just a map, right? So this is Greece. This is all Greece. But all of this area, entire area, was the Persian Empire. Okay. And then they came here. This is the only area, right? This is the Greek peninsula, right? 3 sides it has water. So this is the only area that they were not able to penetrate. Ultimately, they came, their ultimate goal is what? You have to capture the capital. Then only you won. So they came up to this place called Thermopylae, right? And then here in Thermopylae, a very famous battle took place, right? A battle that took place, and the Greeks also gathered their different groups and different armies that were there to fight against the mighty Persians. Persians came with a very huge army, right? What was he saying here? He shall stir up all against the realm of Greece. He gathered everybody so that he can go and fight against the Greece. And he did that. This is talking about Xerxes. He gathered everybody, right? And here they had a very, very fierce battle, right? So much so, in fact, one of the groups that fought here were the Spartans, right? And only 300 of them were there, right? But the history of the Battle of Thermopylae is known for the Spartans who showed courage. Though there were thousands and thousands of Persians that were there, 300 of them were able to hold them for a long time, for several days. In fact, Xerxes had to send message after message and saying, please retreat, right? Because they were frustrating them. They were attacking them. They were losing people, and he had to keep on sending reinforcements. And there was, I think, a movie also on this one. 300. Yeah, there was a movie based on just this battle, how the Spartans, 300 of them, had held back the Persians for a long time. And they rejected all the offers from them. They said, you take this offer and then just move out of the way, because their goal was to reach Athens. But slowly, day after day, 300 of them, became 200 and then 150 and 150 till the last man who was there, they were fighting. That's why they're called the spirit of the Spartans, right? After they finished that, the last man also died. Finally, the Persians won there. And then they came to Athens and they took Athens, right? They conquered Athens, right? And then here in Athens, they went and they burnt so much inside Athens, all the culture and tradition, they destroyed so much in Athens, right? All their beautiful history and everything they destroyed. In fact, if you go to Athens today, you will see so many replicas of the destruction that took place when the Persians came, right? They have this Acropolis, they have this Parthenon, the temples, everything they destroyed. And so you will see only columns, but those itself are big tourist attractions there in Athens. But what happened after that is that though they were here, a few people came to Athens, they were not able to hold Athens for a very long time because there was a lot of revolt that was going on, right? Ultimately, Xerxes had to send another army, right? He had to send another army, and that army, instead of coming through land, they came through sea, right? And they wanted to get into this place, right? Salamis. That's what you see here, right? You see here in this, what does it say? Athens taken, but they were defeated at where? Salamis. Right? So they came here, they came to this place called Salamis, they entered into this bay, they came with so many ships. They came with a huge number of ships. But you see here how it is, when you enter a bay, it gets narrow as you go in. Ultimately, their ships were not able to fit here. And the people, the Greeks, all gathered around this bay, and they sunk all the ships of the Persians that came there. And they defeated the people who were in Athens, and they retook Greece, right? And so they were never again able to conquer Greece, right? So that is the spirit of Greece, the spirit, the fighting spirit that they had. So that is the history of these Persians, right? Now, you see here, this is another picture of the same thing, right? And then they once again tried here in another place called Eurymedon, which is, I think today it's in Turkey somewhere. They fought in another place and they were completely defeated. So much so that Xerxes again never tried one more time, right, to attack the Greeks. After him, his son came, Artaxerxes, right? Artaxerxes came, and then he under him, right, in 457, the third decree was passed. And that decree you see in Ezra 7. Under this decree, so many people and so much material was given where the city of Jerusalem also was built, right? And beautifully, everything was built. Houses were there. Everything was built, right? Only thing that was not there during that time, because the city was there, but the wall was not completed. There was no wall around the city, and they were getting attacked constantly by the, Israel always had enemies all around them, right? And so they were getting attacked and they were very vulnerable. It was like, it was open to threats. So during this king, he had a cupbearer. Those kings had cupbearers. Cupbearer was Nehemiah, right? And so that Nehemiah was in the court of this king called Artaxerxes, who was the son of Xerxes. So one day Nehemiah was very sad, and then this king said, "What happened, Nehemiah? Why are you looking so sad?" And then he said, "My people are there. You sent all these things. They're built, but there is no wall around that." And so Artaxerxes immediately sends him, right? And then he makes Nehemiah in charge there, and then asks him, "You go and rebuild the wall." And we know what happened. Nehemiah went there. Though there was a lot of opposition, Nehemiah went and rebuilt it. In just 52 days, he went and rebuilt the wall, right? So this is just a timeline of the Persian kings, okay? All right. So this, I'm just saying to explain what is this meaning. Stir up against the Greeks means that was Xerxes, right? Then a mighty king shall arise. After this one, the Persians were never the mighty people anymore, right? After that, the only mighty king that came was many years later. Who came? Alexander, right? Alexander the Great came, right? In 300s, he came, right? 332, 333, something like that. He became emperor, right? His father was Philip. If you see the list of the Greek kings, his father was Philip, right? After that came Alexander. He was made king at a very young age, 25 years. He became a king, right? And a mighty king shall arise, who shall rule with great dominion. The speed at which Alexander went. Alexander, the first thing that he did, his eye was only on the Persians, because he remembered all the history. What happened, how the Persians came, how they troubled, how they killed so many, came and got defeated so many times. Instead of holding Greece, he said, "I am going to go and defeat the Persians." So he gathered a huge army, went straight into Persia, all through Babylon. That's it. And then as he was going, he went so quickly, he dealt such a fatal blow that nobody was able to withstand. Nobody was able to withstand. The Persian army just fell like that everywhere that he was going. That's why Alexander the Great was shown in the book of Daniel. He is depicted as a leopard, right? Swift, right? And without touching the ground. Do you know when a cheetah runs, how it runs? If maybe you can, probably on YouTube or somewhere, just see cheetah running full speed. You will see that the legs are hardly touching the ground. It is almost in the air. Like that, Alexander went. He went into Persia. From Persia, he went into Babylon. He went into Egypt, right? He went there, and then he went north, he went south, then he went east also. He came up to northern India, right, to the Indus region also, and then he conquered that region, and he could not go further anymore, so he came back just to consolidate whatever he had done, right? And in a few years, he passed away, like 7 or 8 years. He got some illness, and then he was drinking too much one night, and then he passed away, right? And so that was very swift. Whatever he conquered, really fast. And do according to his will. According to his will, he was going, right? And when he has arisen, the kingdom shall be broken up and divided toward the four winds of heaven, right? In four directions it will be divided. Now, do you remember that after the death of Alexander, what happened? We discussed this several times, right? His four generals fought and then took four parts of his kingdom, right? And I think I have a picture of that as well. Let me see if I can share my screen one more time. Let's see here. Yeah. Just to remind us all, let me just share my screen again. Do you remember this? Right? The four divided kingdoms, right? Initially, one of his generals, a very trusted general called Antigonus, took over a large part of his empire, right? But slowly, Antigonus was defeated. Initially, it was, all these 4 and 5 people, but after that, this guy was defeated. Some part was taken by Ptolemy, some part was taken by Seleucus. So it was Lysimachus who took the northernmost, Cassander who took this part, Ptolemy took the southern part. Can you see which part this is? The Libyan desert is here. So what part are we talking about here? In which country is the Nile? In which country is Alexandria? All of this is Egypt, right? All of this is Egypt. Here you see Syrian desert. So the Syria, Palestine, all these areas was taken by this guy called Seleucus. There are many Seleucuses. So this is Seleucus I. His full name was Seleucus I Nicator, right? Ptolemy I. Right? Why this Ptolemy I and Seleucus I is important is because as we are going through, you will see Seleucus II, III, you will see Ptolemy II, III, and all of that. Okay, and in fact, we're going to talk about these two people now, right? So, Alexander's empire was expanded. This guy even went further east into that. But these were the four, when we say four winds of heaven. But not among his posterity. What is your posterity? Your children, right? Alexander had a son, but the son was, when Alexander's wife was pregnant, Alexander died. So his wife delivered a boy after the death of Alexander, right? So that son, everybody, he was called, I think, Alexander the Fourth, probably, if I remember history. But his son, everyone expected that, those days, even if he's just born, they will say he's the king, right? And then when he is old enough, he will start managing. Till such time, somebody will manage it for him. But these people, right, these guys, Ptolemy, Seleucus, all these people saw it as a threat, right? And so they took his wife and that guy and killed him, right? And they killed the son so that there won't be any heir to the throne of Alexander, right? So at an infant itself, they killed him, right? So that's why it said 4 kingdoms will be there, but not of his own, right? It will be none of his children, not among his posterity, not according to his dominion which he ruled. It will not be all in one. They will not be as glorious as the time when he ruled. For his kingdom shall be uprooted, even for those besides these, right? So his original kingdom will be taken away by his own people, right? That kingdom won't exist anymore. There was no more Greek kingdom. There was Ptolemy kingdom, there was the Seleucus, there was the Lysimachus and Cassander. That's it, right? And so that is how the kingdoms got divided after the death of Alexander. That is what he's telling. This detail, right, that it will not go to his son, but it will go among his generals, again is given here. It is not given earlier on anywhere else in the book of Daniel, right? So additional details. And then from now on, we will see even finer and more specific details about two of those kingdoms. So let's go into that. How are we doing on time?
You want to do more verses?
Sure, let's do.
Or it's too much for them, so everybody's here, right?
All right, so we'll see if we can cover a few more. So can somebody read 5 and 6, please? We are in Daniel 11, 5 and 6.
Yes, brother. అయితే దక్షిణ దేశపు రాజును అతని అధిపతులలో ఒకడను బలము పొందెదరు. అతడు అతని కంటే గొప్పవాడై ఏలు. అతని ప్రభుత్వము గొప్ప ప్రభుత్వమగును. కొన్ని సంవత్సరములైన పిమ్మట వారు ఉభయులు కూడుకొనెదరు. మరియు వారు ఉభయులు సమాధాన పడవలెనని కోరగా దక్షిణ దేశపు రాజకుమార్తె ఉత్తర దేశపు రాజునొద్దకు వచ్చును. అయినను ఆమె భుజబలము నేరదు. అతడైనను అతని భుజబలమైనను నిలవదు. వారు ఆమెను తీసుకుని వచ్చిన వారిని, ఆమెను కనిన వారిని, ఈ కాలమందు ఆమెను బలపరిచిన వారిని అప్పగించెదరు.
Thank you so much. So again, we are continuing with the kingdom of the 4 divided kingdoms. Okay, so I will go back and share my screen one more time. What is happening here? So we see here, when you notice this, it says, also the king of the south shall become strong, as well as one of his princes, and he shall gain power over him and have dominion, and his dominion shall be a great dominion. Right? Yeah. So now,
It's about Ptolemy.
yes. So you see here, we are talking about 2 kingdoms, right? Again, we are not talking about any of these kingdoms because we talk about kingdoms where the people of God are present, right? You know, the people of God are present. That is where the prophecy really focuses on. They're present here, right? In Syria, all of this area, right? Towards Gaza, towards the Mount Sinai, towards Egypt. This is where the people of God resided those days, right? So in this place, north is this and south is this, right? Here, all of this is Syria, Egypt, and this is, Syria and Palestine, and this is Egypt. So the king of the south, who is the king of the south here? Ptolemy is the king of the south, shall become very strong. You know, when the kingdoms were being divided, before Seleucus took all this empire, Ptolemy took Egypt. Right? Even before Seleucus got all of this, all of this was belonging to Antigonus, right? Even this area, before Seleucus took it, it was all with Ptolemy, right? Ptolemy, this guy was actually working for Ptolemy, right? He was a subordinate to Ptolemy. He used to, if you read history, he used to be an associate of Ptolemy, right? Seleucus, right? So that's why it says, the king of the south shall become strong, as well as one of his princes. One of his princes, one of his associates was Seleucus. Both of these guys will become strong, and he shall gain power over him and have dominion. So much so that this guy, though he was his associate, and Ptolemy actually helps him. Ptolemy actually helps him to get some territory from this guy. Both of these guys fight against Antigonus, and Ptolemy gets some area and Seleucus gets some area, right? But this guy becomes so strong that he keeps on expanding his empire. Can you see here? Ptolemy's empire is only limited to Egypt, but this guy takes the whole of Asia. Asia Minor, they call this area, right? All the way up to India. He takes this entire area. So he became even greater than Ptolemy. And obviously, from here on, these kingdoms were opposed to each other, right? And there was always rivalry between the Seleucids and the Ptolemy kingdom, right? The Ptolemaic and the Seleucid empire, they were called, because now both of these are empires. And his dominion shall become a great dominion. You can see here a huge empire Seleucus builds, right? Though he was at one point of time an associate, he became, right? And at the end of some years, after some years, they will join forces again. You know, it's very interesting here. Just see the hierarchy here, the kings of the north and the south. We know that the king of the north was Seleucus, right? His son was Seleucus I Nicator. His son was Antiochus I, right? And Antiochus I's son was Antiochus II. Here it says, after some years, means after a couple of generations, Antiochus II had a wife, right? Laodice was his wife, right? But in those days, people had, you know, more than one wife. In order to, and Ptolemy I was gone. After that, Ptolemy II came, and Ptolemy III came. And then Ptolemy II had a daughter called Bernice and a son called Ptolemy III. This guy thought, you know, let us make peace with the Ptolemaic Empire. The Seleucid Empire and the Ptolemaic Empire should, you know, become one. And so what he did was, he went, those days I was telling you, even the days of Cyrus, the way to make an agreement for peace was, one king used to go and marry or give in marriage with his son another king's daughter, right? That was very, very common those days. In that way, they used to bring an agreement of peace. And so Antiochus II went and married the daughter of Ptolemy II, and her name was Bernice. He already had a wife, but you know, those days they could marry again, I guess. So he went and married again, right? Bernice, and then they got a son as well from that. But what we see here, at the end of some years, they shall join forces. The daughter of the king of south shall go to the king of the north to make an agreement, right? So this is the king of the south. This is the king of the north. The daughter of this king will go, and then basically they have an agreement, and then they get married. But she shall not retain the power of her authority. You know what happens is, the Antiochus II, after he married her, Laodice gets a son, right? When Laodice gets a son, Antiochus II gives more importance to Laodice and, you know, that original son that he had, right? And so the authority that, you know, Bernice had originally, all of that was taken away. In fact, Laodice gets Bernice and her son killed, you know, much later. So what happens here? She shall not retain the power of her authority, neither he or his authority shall stand. You know, later on, Antiochus also dies, right? His authority also does not stay, or her authority also does not stay, right? And later on, his son takes over. But that was the son of these two. And what happens? Authority is not there, nor his authority, but she shall be given up. And those who brought her, you know, when she came from the south to the north, she came with so many maids. They used to come, you know, with so much of property and jewelry and maids and everything. She came. Those who brought her, all the maids also killed. And with her, he who begot her. Who begot her means who gave birth to her. Father also was killed, right? Ptolemy, he was killed. Father also was, he died. And he who strengthened her in those times, right? Whoever strengthens, you know, the husband strengthens her, but even the husband died. So from all of this, you know, it is, she was weakened, she died, her son died, her people who came with her died, her father died, everyone. Right? From this particular arrangement, nothing worked out. But it says, Bernice, what does it say? It says, those who begot her, but from a branch of her roots, one shall arise in his place, who shall come with an army, enter the fortress of the king of the north, and deal with them and prevail. You know, her roots, a branch of her root. Where is her root? Her root is her father. A branch. She is one branch. Who is the other branch? Ptolemy III. Basically, her brother will take over the south kingdom, will take over the Egypt kingdom. He will really go against the, right now, who is there? This guy is gone. So the next king is Seleucus II. So this guy will bring a huge army and attack Seleucus II, right? And so he will attack Seleucus II and he will prevail. He really, he goes after them, and what does he do? He shall also carry their gods captive to Egypt with their princes, their precious articles of silver, and he shall continue more years than the king of the north. He goes and totally decimates so much in the king of from the north, and then he will bring even their idols, right? Their gods. To bring their idol, this one means they have captured their god. That means their god was not able to save them, right? So he brings so many spoils away from the northern part of Syria and all of that back to Egypt, right? Back to Egypt, and and in fact, he will live longer than Seleucus, right? And so that was up to that part. Right. So
Loudest 2, loudest 3.
yeah, so these people, this guy's mother was Laodice, right? Now, when he married somebody, I don't know what her original name was, but these people used to take titles. So when she became queen, he wanted her to bear the name of her mother. So she became Laodice II. When he got a son, that guy took Antiochus III, but he wanted his wife to take a title, Laodice III, right? So, like in the British system, the prince will be called the Prince of Wales or the Duchess of Wales or something like that. No matter what their name is, they take a title. So those are the titles that they used. Okay. And then many things happen after that. I don't know how much, I think we are almost out of time. So I will stop here, and then we will continue with a very interesting story. After this, what happens in Antiochus, how some of the wars took place, with places that we are familiar with battles that we are familiar with. All these details, you can see till the detail of what happens to her, what happens to her children, right? What happens to her father, how her brother comes and does. Details are given just in 2 or 3 verses. But when we look back, all those things actually happened, right? And I'm purely going by history books, right? All of this is recorded in history. So Bible verses totally, align with history.